For the first time in 3 years, it'll be a different team wearing the maple leaf at the Women's World Curling Championship. But don't worry, we're in good hands.
Holland is going to Denmark.
Amber Holland's chrono crew won the right to represent Canada after stealing the Scotties title. Facing the 09 champ, their first draw will be a challenge. It's Canada and China next.
It seems you're never very far from anywhere when you're visiting Europe. This week, all signs point to right here, Esbjerg, Denmark. Hello, Canada. Welcome to our opening day coverage of the Capital One World Women's Curling Championship presented by Ford of Canada. Russ Howard alongside. Amber Holland and Team Canada open against a familiar face and name in Wang of China.
Well, one of many tough ones, Vic. There's a lot of parity here. I think just making the playoffs, you're going to have a solid week, no bad games. And for Amber, they have no reason, in my mind, why they can't make the playoffs as long as she plays the way she did at the National Championship. She made everything.
Amber Holland and Canada make their debut on the international stage when we come back to Esbjerg.
The 2011 Capital One World Women's Curling is brought to you by Ford, official automotive partner of the Canadian Curling Association.
The championship trophy that will be presented to the Women's World Champions in just over a week's time as we welcome you back to Esbjerg and our opening day coverage as Canada takes to the ice in their opening game against China. It's time to meet the teams now. It's brought to you by Ford, official automotive partner of the Canadian Curling Association. The Canadian champions are from the Chrono Curling Club, southeast of Regina. They are skipped by Amber Holland. Their lead is Heather Kalinchuk, Tammy Schneider, and Kim Schneider. The Chinese are out of the Harbin Curling Club, Wang with Yan Cho, Qingxua Yue, and Yin Liu.
Curling now.
The first rock is from the Canadian lead, Heather Kalinchuk. They had the draw to the button, Russ, and it, interestingly enough, usually we see the skip throw, but they're doing similar to what we do in Canada. The Canadians have done it all year. They've gone through that rotation, so Heather Kalinchuk threw the draw to the button today. She lost to China, so it is China who have their hammer, and they're playing the red stones here in the first.
It's interesting, Vic. They've done that all year. I was talking to Amber right after the Scotties, and that's exactly what they've done even in Bonspiels because they knew the rule was going to be changed, and they didn't want the lead second of ice, who normally don't do that, having to throw that all-important draw to the button. But they just slipped a little deep on the draw to the button, only about a foot heavy, and that's cost them the hammer.
So up and down the sheet, it appears here in this first, this Canadian team has never played internationally. This is their first trip outside the country. They had a couple of chances, Amber was saying earlier this year, but as we say, you know, life does get in the way. They just couldn't make the timing work. So when you come over to Europe, what are the things that you have to deal with?
Normally ice conditions for sure, but having Mark Sherrick here, a Canadian boy, one of the best, I think, in the entire world at making ice, that should not be a problem. The ice in practice looked fantastic, Vic. At least 4 feet of curl. Speed's maybe a shade slower in practice, but this morning it looks a little better. Everybody's draw the buttons were a little deep.
And there you see we play 73 minutes, and as we have at home, it's called a coach's interaction, coach's visit, and we do have to play a minimum of 6 ends in this round-robin portion. Now, some of the other things is it's certainly more conducive to a Canadian team coming here to Denmark. You have to get used to time change, of course. It's presently 5 hours difference between the Eastern time zone and Denmark. They do their spring ahead tonight, so we'll all be losing another hour of sleep. But when you come to Denmark, at least the food is similar. My goodness, you don't have to deal with a language problem. It seems that almost everyone speaks English.
I can't believe that. It's just been amazing and incredibly friendly. The service has been amazing. The food's a little too good, actually. But it's, yeah, there's no type of different distractions like that. Again, great ice. And I think it's it's Canadian ice, to be honest, Vic. Lots of curl, great finish. We see that at the Scotties. We see that at the men's championship, the Brier, and I think Team Canada will adjust maybe even quicker than China. China wouldn't play on this type of surface as often as Canada would.
And I apologize, it's next Saturday night, so good thing I was corrected, because then I would have been here a lot earlier.
When I talk about the big swing and being in a slight advantage to Canada, we'll watch throughout this game. China throws a fairly slow rotation. Some of them throw more than others, but a little bit of a soft release. Which I mean by that is the rock is starting to curl out of the thrower's hand. And you'll notice as much as 2 feet difference on the draw shots when they put the ice down, and that's going to make it really interesting, because Amber has to make that adjustment in reading the ice. When you see the big curl and her team's rocks aren't going to curl as much, you can be fooled.
Yeah, you don't, we've learned, I think, over the course of a few years, you don't read off the Chinese team.
No, it's so true. And it's not that they're throwing it poorly, it's just different. You know, a lot like a golfer. Some people slice, some people hook. They both end up in the middle of the fairway. That's the theory, but they definitely get way more finish than in this particular case, the Amber Holland team.
It's the first and opening game for Team Canada and Amber Holland as she plays Wang. From Harbin, China, in her 6th appearance at the World Championships.
Fantastic technique in this entire team, Vic. I'm really impressed. The learning curve was just incredible, but they actually seem to have taken a step backwards. They were the best team in the world in '09. They get to the 2010 World Championship, and they actually came 7th. They didn't do quite as well in the Olympics, and it's tough to say. A lot of people blame it on burnout.
Well, remember, we saw this Chinese team as part of the team that competed at the Continental Cup. And in talking to Bing-Yu, she said they just went so hard, as many Canadian teams did as well, in trying to qualify for Vancouver. Many teams played maybe too much. And everybo's pulling back this year, including the Chinese.
You see that a lot. The Olympic trials 5 years ago in Halifax, the favorites for Kevin Martin and Randy Ferbey, and they both dedicated an incredible amount of time and came up empty, both of them. And there's certainly a fine balance there. It's such a mental strain. You're living together all the time. You have to really be concentrating on, like in this situation, different releases, different ice conditions. And I think you could definitely rest might do some of these athletes more good than practice.
So that stone now outside.
Corner guard's so long, it's kind of a non-factor for both teams. There's so much curl here. If Amber did hit and roll behind it, it wouldn't be that difficult a shot to tap out.
Tim Schneider.
A little softer weight here. These will take off.
And it has, and gets nothing.
That's the shot, Vic, we have to watch during the week, especially at the start of the week. Tight and light, she said, and that's not, she didn't throw that as bad as it looked at the far end, but
First one, but that probably was better.
taking a little weight off it. It's amazing how much more it'll curl.
Yin Liu throwing the 3rd stone for the Chinese.
2 options here. You could try to split them on or tap the closest one to the ring straight back.
Just comes across the face, bumps it into the edge of the button tee line, but it's popped out into the open.
That break for Canada there. It's hard to get that broom in the right spot with that tremendous curl, that over curled, and now it's a chance to hit and roll behind the corner.
Okay, 9.5. We'll roll in behind that corner.
9.5 being normal weight for Team Canada. That's measured hog to hog, 9.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Amber Holland out of Crono, Saskatchewan, the first national champion out of Saskatchewan since Sandra Schmerler won the Canadian title back in 1997.
Clean.
idea, but just couldn't
Firm.
get the complete roll.
往这边甩吧，稍微再往外一点。
Canadian team has been here about 5 days. They've had some good practice at the local curling club here in Esbjerg.
行。
It's interesting, Bing Yu made her first appearance on the world stage at a World Juniors, in fact in the B division. Looking for the hit and roll, doesn't, right on the beak. That was back in 2004, and it was here in Denmark, in a city called Turnbu. So while this is the first time that Denmark has ever hosted a world championship, a women's world championship,
still roll Tam's way, hey?
and many people making their first trip to this part of
Yeah.
the world, northern continent. Bing Yu has been here before to Denmark. Final stone for Canada here in the first.
Would love to roll behind the corner guard here, the short corner. The long's too far out to do any damage.
Yep. 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 Yes.
Kalinchuk and Tammy Schneider. And once again, so China will have a chance here for the blank in this opening end.
Common theme here already, but
Rolls are
over
going to be
curling.
tough.
Rolls are going to be tough,
Across the
Mr.
face
Amber.
might even be easier. Yeah.
Just quickly explain why the rolls will be tough.
What she's saying, yeah, exactly. It's the amount of finish. On the takeouts, normally if you throw a bit of weight, they don't curl much, so it's easy to predict where that rock's going to end up. Here, they're curling like crazy unless you're throwing peel weight, so it's tough to hit it in the desired spot because you have to anticipate that curl. Almost every shot this end by both teams over curled.
Final stone here in the first as China and Bing Yu Wang look for the blank. Trying to hold the line, roll the shooter, and it'll hang around as China is forced to take one here in the first. When we come back, Canada will have the last rock for the first time. The Capital One World Women's Curling Championship presented by Ford of Canada.
2011 Capital One World Women's Curling is brought to you by Tim Hortons Premium Blend Coffee. Always 20 minutes fresh. By M&M Meat Shops. Hundreds of meal ideas, one aisle. And by Scotty's Facial Tissue. Stylish designs for any room. TV.
Okay, yep, then. Clean.
Welcome back to Esbjerg and our coverage of the World Women's Curling Championship. Here's the entire field. 12 teams will play a round robin through Thursday. Headed by the Danish champions Lena Nielsen, who lost last night to Germany, and defending world champion Andrea Schopp. Of course, Amber Holland. Wang Kubetskova is a 18-year-old junior out of Czech Republic. Schopp and Korea making their third appearance. Lynn Gitmark of Norway. Krivovkova, we know. Anna Sloan is just 18 from Scotland. Annette Norberg has a young team as she continues on. The two-time gold medalist Miriam Ott from Switzerland. And Patty Lank is an interesting story. The U.S. champion making her first appearance since 2004, but has her 16-year-old daughter Mackenzie playing and throwing the lead stones. So that's your entire field as we welcome you back. China scoring 1 in the first. And so Canada and Amber Holland will have the last rock playing the Yellowstones here in 2.
Clean. Clean's fine. No. Clean's fine. Good.
China throwing the first one into the rings. Yen Chao, I think on purpose. Amber walked up and hit it. Normally you might see a corner guard come up from a rock that's not in the 4-foot area, but I think Canada's still trying to feel out this ice. Both teams were over curling with all the aggressive curl late with these rocks. These rocks are very, very sharp. And I think it's a smart move to keep it clean for a couple ends until they figure out where to put the broom.
Last night they played a couple of games here at the Granley Hockey Arena to begin opening round, and the Crown Prince Frederick of Denmark threw out the first stone in front of a full house. Mentioned that Germany won 8-3 over Denmark. Andreas Schopp scored 4 in 10 to win. And then Norway was a winner over Sweden, as Norway got 1 in 9 and then stole 2 in 10, Russ. Annette Norberg, of course, the two-time gold medalist, we expected them to retire after Vancouver. The rest of her team has. Annette continues to play on, but she picked up the team of Cecilia Ostlund, who last year finished in 4th position, went 7-4. A young team. And remember, you may remember last year in Swift Current, they made the Page playoffs, but they lost to Scotland in the 3-4 game. So, you know, much like yourself, you've said you were rejuvenated when you picked up a younger front end, and that's what's happened now to Annette Norberg.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea for Annette. It's nice to see her still playing. You know, 2-time gold medals. Doesn't get any better than that. There's really nothing left to prove, but I truly believe having the 3 youngsters on the team really gives you a shot of adrenaline and keep you young, keep you know, going in the game. And they're good players, Vic. On paper, they're one of the best teams here.
So a wide open second end after China takes one. This is Tammy Schneider.
With the invention of the free guard zone back in the mid-90s, you don't see this type of end very often, but it's not a bad play by Amber Holland. China has really no choice but to peel these corner guards. Oh, this one's a little deep. And, you know, one mistake and you go around it, score it pretty easy too. So Tammy would like that one a little bit higher.
The interesting thing about this Chinese team, because we expect them with their expertise and being so dominant, they did not win the Pacific region this year. It was actually won by Korea and Ji-Sun Kim, who are here, and they are currently on the ice and playing Russia.
Yeah, that's a bit of an upset, Vic. You know, if that was 4 times in a row China had won the gold medal in the Pacific Rim, and all of a sudden they were beaten by Korea, and it tells you how good this Korea team's becoming.
Kim Schneider as we throw third stones here in the second.
Clean. Yep, 6. Yep. 9-7. Hard. Really hard. Hard. Slow. Good.
Kim's made the adjustment. She completely missed in the first end, being a little bit soft on the release, a little bit less weight, and that was a nice throw. And that's what Amber's trying to do, is run it up and down the ice for a couple ends, not get too complicated, and get all 4 players on side with his big curl.
What did you get for that? Okay, so I don't know what we should have done more from a flash. See, I thought if you went to the one.
Kim, in my opinion, was the most improved curler at the national championship, Vic. I think she was 11th the year before in stats, and you can't win a championship if your vice is 11th, but what an improvement this year.
Well, all of them invested so much time after their performance at the Scotties in 2010. They sat down with their coach Murph Fonger and decided and analyzed what they needed to do, both from a fitness and nutritional standpoint. You'll remember we were telling you at the Scotties in Charlottetown how they had made sure that they were into a routine, eating properly, and in fact that has carried over here. They're all about routine now. They're all about staying on a schedule, and they've tried to do that while they're here. Early days, of course, here in Esbjerg.
And even a morning game like this, they have to eat a substantial, healthy breakfast 2 hours before game time. And you know, in this case, with the time change, that's difficult to do. But they are really, really set with that routine. It's fantastic to see, and it's certainly paid dividends. Here's the opportunity Amber was looking for. It's a chance, you know, 2 rocks to 1 here, sink one and force Bing Wang to a very difficult shot.
This will be the only game of the day for Team Canada and Amber Holland. There'll be another afternoon draw this today, Esbjerg time, and then they'll have their opening banquet tonight. So you don't think that the Canadian team should stop by the bakery and grabbed a pastry like we did?
I don't think so, but they really should have. That pastry was incredible.
Something we've come to expect when we've watched Amber Holland now for a couple of years. This is a lady that almost always has a smile on her face.
I can't get over her attitude when they gave up the 3-ender in the final game to Jennifer Jones, and that could have been the end of the game, and the way they handled that devastation in the 3-ender was amazing.
Yeah, it was a tremendous comeback.
Lots of room here. This has to finish. The speed's not bad. You might want to take this back and get it off the button.
And they will. So they sit center line, about maybe a quarter covered.
Once you know you're behind the tee line, Vic, you're better to get it way back there when you have the hammer, because let's pretend that stops at the back of the button. Bing Wang freezes perfectly. You can't score. So taking it back, A, buries the rock, and B, gives you a little more room on your next one. And but I think it's sticking out on the outturned side a little bit here. She might be playing a soft weight tap to try to tap that out of there. Not an easy shot. It's a small half you're aiming at here. And these are the ones that have been over curling. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially with the Chinese release. This will curl in this spot.
Final stone for China, leading 1-0 as we play here in the second. Bing Wang. Yue and Cho on the brush, and unable to hold the shooter, and so Canada now will go for the blank.
Weight control so sensitive in that spot. Bing Hu had tremendous, I think a little more weight than she wanted. She asked for control. It was almost normal, and that's what kept it out there. Any less weight than that, and that's all over the guard. Changing turns. They haven't played this spot. This is what we call a freebie. You might as well learn all the spots in the ice. So this, all team members will be watching this spot intently to pick up on what it's doing.
So Tammy Schneider with the clean. The blank means Canada will take the hammer to the third when we return to Esbjerg. It's not hard to pick out the Team Canada fans here at the Granley Hockey Arena. We flew over with many of them on Wednesday as we welcome you back to our opening day coverage, the Capital One World Women's Curling Championship presented by Ford of Canada. China got 1 in the first. The blank in 2 means Canada once again has the last rock here in 3, playing the Yellowstones.
Great to see so many supporters for Canada. That makes a big difference. I played 3 or 4 big events across the pond, and you know, it's different for the team, and it's nice to have that that support from family members. Makes a big difference.
So first little bit of aggressive play here. She indicates she's going to go up with a corner.
Yeah, and it's a different play. A couple of the teams are starting to do what Amber did. Hit the first one because it was in such a dangerous spot. Roll a little bit, which was a great throw by Heather. Now when China hits it dead on, it's out of that scoring area for all intents and purposes. It's not in the forefoot. Amber should be able to draw it if that rock stays there. So now they go to the offense. Throw the corner guard.
Heather Kalinchuk, who throws the lead stones, was at one time a skip in her junior and bantam days.
Skips make good leads.
Well, you know, she frankly said that she just didn't have the head for it. She had the head for the game. She didn't have the head or the temperament to play skip.
Yeah, no question about it. Makes a big difference.
Well, that's the coach is familiar to us because we've always seen Wei Chang, but the coach, I think most people remember from being with the Chinese, is Dan Raphael out of Montreal, but Raphael is no longer with the Chinese team. He's now the head coach of the Italian national team, and some people are suggesting one of the reasons for their struggles at the Worlds last year and may have been the fact that Raphael wasn't with them.
They definitely, when they got to Vancouver for the Olympics, Vic, they really did look burned out. It looked like a job to me, and you can't play at your best if you're not having fun.
Yeah, I got 9-1. 9-1.
Bit of a mistake by Canada. You wanted the double was one thing, but you wanted to hang around if you missed it. And now China will split the rings, and it'll be difficult to blank this one. Might be a little too deep. They'd like to leave this right by the top of this tee line. Now there's a bit of an angle for a double.
'63-year-old Merv Fonger from Moose Jaw. Been coaching for some 24 years. Started in high school, has won medals at every division he's coached in, and is a longtime coach of this Amber Holland team. Together now for 6 years.
Line's fine if you need to go. Yep, a little for line. Yep, for line. Hard. Hard line. Hard. Hard line. Go, go, go.
Good looking rock here.
Right down on top. Very nice stone.
Two options there. Once the Chinese team's sitting two, you could play the double, but you'd have to roll perfect. But you can go to the offense as Canada now has, and that's glued on there perfect, Vic. And the angle is tilted slightly towards the center line, so this is incredibly hard to remove. I'm not sure they can get this out.
This is Li Yu throwing the third stones. And she will not. And now the shooter will spin and sit just back edge of the 8. So it looked like might be a force of 1. Could turn out to be a very nice 2 here by Canada in the third.
Turns it around in a hurry. They've played pretty defensively, not played phenomenal. Missed a few in the inside. All of a sudden a perfect freeze, and they get a chance for a deuce.
9-3. Clean. 9-3. Easy.
Beautiful weight control here by Kim. Just the keys to hang around, so don't whip this rock. Just give it to the sweepers.
Good.
Nice throw.
Nice. She'll make the Rays double to sit 2, and they're well spread out.
The double didn't have to be made, but obviously that was on the radar. And what tends to happen when you're trying to remove 80 pounds of granite is you throw that little extra weight, but the key was hang around.
Li Yu with a little wobble. Qingxua Shui with Gen Cho trying to hold the line, and they do as they bang it right on the beat.
Little over curl again. They'd love to hit that on the high side, roll towards that other yellow.
下的好大哎，还下的太大了。
Pair more. Yep. Clean. Yep. Clean. Yep. Clean. Good call on the weight.
That's a nice adjustment by Kim Schneider. Remember, she got caught earlier.
First end, she missed by at least 6 inches, which was of the rock, which means you're almost a foot and a half narrow, and it's partly speed control and knowing exactly what speed to throw to get the desired amount of break. Nice end here. The other positive for all the teams is the ice looks fantastic, Vic. There's tons of curl. It's quicker than it was in practice. It's around 14 and a half, hog to hog, roughly 24 and a half from backline to button.
It's their only game today. It's their only opportunity.
You can see the confidence coming back already. They looked a little uptight in that first end, but a well-played end here so far.
And again, Amber and Kim talking about their day. This is the only game for Team Canada on this opening day of play.
This is close.
Got one, cross, and it'll slide behind. She looks disappointed, as if the brushing call may have been the problem there.
A little extra weight, it runs that much straighter. She throws amazing rotation, and they could have got off the sweeping there, made it a little closer, but good opportunity for Amber.
Oh yeah, we always put money in. Well, yeah.
See if they give us a time here.
Who knew? Well, said he could throw a 6'8".
How hard she threw that.
Alrighty. So T-line's great.
Now, if you're not aware of the story, after the Scotties and the win, the Holland team got caught in a snowstorm in Atlantic Canada and were taken in by the Howard family. How many days were they with you?
2.5. It was amazing. We had a lot of fun. They were obviously on top of the world after winning the national championship, so we told a few stories and talked a bit of curling.
And then they were finally got home on the Wednesday. Now, this is a gift. This is a big mistake here by Amber Holland as she throws it through with her first. When Amber and the team finally did get home, 2 days late, there were still 300 people at the Regina airport to greet them.
Oops. That's not what I meant.
And that was a big oops.
Yeah, that is. You only get so many times. In theory, 10-end game, you have the hammer 5 times, depending if there's steals or not. But you were already in the third end before there's an offensive chance.
You can see it's running down the center line the entire way you're sweeping.
Nothing phases them, though, Vic. They really do have a wonderful demeanor.
Mingyu Wang, final stone for her in China. A week ago last night, they had a big send-off for Amber in Regina. They had some 250 people at a hotel in Regina. She was thrilled by that. She told me a story, though, when they got to the airport, there was one woman there with a Canadian flag, and she said finally some of the other team members, who is that person? Do anybody know her? Nobody knew. This woman just wasn't able to get to the reception, so she came out just to send them off. This one lonely woman.
Wow.
So yeah. Final stone looking for the blank here in 3 after missing the opportunity to split the house. And so Canada will start over. They'll try again in 4. China continues to lead. It's the opening day, the World Women's Curling Championship here on TSN. opening day, Capital One World Women's Curling Championship presented by Ford of Canada. And our next telecast will be on Sunday. It'll be the 5th draw. It'll be Denmark against Canada. The Danes having lost to Germany last night. You'll see it on TSN2 on a tape delay at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Or you can watch the game live on tsn.ca at 2 p.m. Eastern. And there you see just some of the fans who signed the flag at that go-away reception in Regina. China leads 1-0. They got their single in the first. We've had 2 straight blanks. And so here the third once again. Canada and Amber Holland from Crono, Saskatchewan will have the last rock playing the Yellowstones here in the 4th.
Yen Chao a little deep on her first one. They wanted that in front of the tee line. Beck gets back 8. This guard's over curling a little bit too. It's a nice chance for Canada here to get some offense on the start early this end. The corner guard's a little tight to the center line, but it's in a good spot lengthwise.
420.
That yellow corner guard might block the right-hand side of the sheet for a draw to the button later, so they really only have this side, which is the intern for the right-handed curler.
Line's fine. Bit of room.
Pretty defensive by both teams. Both teams are now have the draw weight down. They seem to have their ice figured out. Lots of curl with these rocks, and I think you'll see a lot of rocks in play from for the rest of this game.
Well, just the fact we've got those 2 corners, 1 center, 1 guarding the 8-foot is more than we've had so far.
Bit of a mistake by China to go that long, and it allows Canada to make the first aggressive move here.
And they almost bury it, top 4. Almost totally covered it, just a little shy.
China could try to tap that out, but without hammer, they're going to try to freeze and shrink the scoring area. Great looking shot here. Might tap it a little bit, but it's right on the face of it.
Yeah, just bumps it back to sit on the button.
A lot of people that play the game recreationally don't understand this type of strategy of ignoring the yellow Canadian rock, especially when you don't have hammer. But how do you get that red one out? It's partially buried. You can tap it onto your own shot rock, and it shrinks the 12-foot. All of a sudden, there's a smaller scoring area. So if this was the last shot of the end, you'd have to draw around that red one into the 4-foot, which would be a difficult shot for Amber Holland.
Tammy Schneider throwing the second stones.
Nice weight, Tam.
And maybe there's the angle to play the yellow onto red.
Exactly.
Tammy was saying, you know, it's interesting what comes back, what you remember. She's here now as a Canadian champion. The dream is realized. What she was saying before she left, how she remembered her father pushing her around at the age of, 2 and 3 years of age on the curling stone at the Crono Club. And she says all that floods back when you reach a goal.
Dad's in the stands watching and chewing his nails like everybody else, and that's so true. And that's how a lot of the curlers got started in our country. Be careful here, Vic. If they hit that yellow one too thin, the red might go right by everything. Watch this red one. Yeah, it shoots by. Big mistake there.
It's an interesting call, because if you go back to what you said, how the Chinese had played the first one so well to come in and shrink the scoring zone. Why wouldn't they just try to take the angle away rather than play the angle raise?
You're right. You're absolutely right, Vic. That was not the shot that really needed to be played there. I think she was heavier than anything. I think they wanted to jiggle that angle, change it around a little bit, but there was too much weight, and advantage Canada for sure.
and roll. Still have that movement.
You could just do that.
Yeah.
Okay, go here.
You just come through this way
Good.
right onto it.
Go. Same weight, good.
6 of one, half dozen of the other here. They're a little worried about the red China rock at the top 12, but the red onto the yellow will not make a double. So I think what they need to do here is bring another one in, force China to play that raise, and you'll still sit 2 if this stops in the 8 foot.
3, 4. Line's good. Good, yep. Line.
So 3-4. 4 would just be into the top 12 as they play with the zone system, and it'll come up just a little light, sit in the number 3 position.
What they were worrying about is the red rock right there, and they're afraid of the run back. But the run back will actually just, if you were hitting it, would actually come back and jam on the second one. I don't think they could possibly make this double. So I think all Canada has to do is protect that.
You just saw Patty Lank miss the angle raise, and Switzerland and Miriam Ott just scored and stole 1 in 3. So the Swiss and Ott, the 2-time Olympic silver medalist, with a 2-0 lead as they play in the 4th against Patty Lank and the U.S.
The other option is here. Just leave her the hit and roll then. Flop her behind it though. Whichever you like.
So I need like 410, 415.
Canada's got to be careful here. It's a lonely yellow in there, albeit buried for now. There are a lot of rocks to come, and that red rock up where Amber's holding the broom is a very dangerous rock for China.
You're just a broom width more.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I threw out here already.
Coming in this way makes sense, long as you bury it. If you don't bury it, there could be a double to sit 4 or 5.
We're just a 4. Okay, go then.
We're playing third stones here in this 4th end of play. This is Kim Schneider.
We're not even there, too. Okay. Yep, keep coming. Yep, keep coming. Okay.
Because you got 410s on yours. And with 410 on your 3, and a 403 on your.
机会，要不然你放在那块他也要用。找一个。
Those 2 yellow guards coming up short. This is dangerous situation for Canada. If this rock's made, it's basically half rock, which is the kind you like to have. It'll be tough to score.
In Liu trying to hold the line, looking for the angle run back, and she'll drive it by. Canada is sitting 1. It's covered. It sits right on the button as they look to get their first points.
There's still a red one out there, Vic, albeit a flat angle, the one way over on the left-hand side of the screen. Oddly enough, if that was in Canada, that would be out of play. We have a much wider surface here. It's virtually 2 feet wider, 16 feet 5 inches compared to 14.6. That rock's actually against the boards. If you're playing in Canada, that could still come into play.
No, line's pretty good. We gotta go. Line's great, all you. Line's great. Yep, keep on the line. Hard line.
Love to make this second shot. They got to go.
You gotta go.
Got it behind the guard now enough, and they will. Great brushing to draw to the edge of the 4. Heather Kalinchuk and Tammy Schneider as Canada sits 2. Don't think I've ever asked this over the course of so many years, because you do relate it to hockey when you go from an NHL size rink to international. But because of that extra width, do you in fact have to think about strategy differently?
Yes, you do. You definitely do. Whenever we played, if you look at the yellow corner guard on our screen on the right-hand side, in Canada, you could not get around that with this big curl because there's not enough room, but here you can. So there's a few different shots that are available, and you have to be aware of that.
You know, hockey players often talk about their angles of attack because of the boards being a little wider. You have to think about where you are in relationship to the other player. So in a similar vein, that's what you're thinking about here too.
No question about it.
Angle of attack, really.
Yeah, you've got more options. You go around those corner guards with both turns, and the Canadian team would be well advised to practice that when they have the chance. Big shot by Kim there. What an end changer. If China had made that angle raise, Canada's facing possibly 5. Now they have 2 buried with the hammer.
Skip stones here in the 4th, and this is China's Bing Wang.
Shade extra weight here. It's good. They've got to wait for it to break. Here it goes.
A little angle bump will push it further into the 4-foot. Canada continues to sit 2.
About the best she could do. She could have tapped it back a little farther, but any more weight, you wouldn't get that finish. And both yellows are dead buried.
This way, right? She's got that, but she can't get both.
You don't really want to play it too tight and ticket either.
No.
Cut this turn?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, here when we were
Tammy,
going
Tammy came even on her second one there.
It's interesting, we
less.
haven't seen anybody. You know, there's that yellow guard that you were talking about on the left-hand side. We haven't seen.
Let's go, you got it.
Most of the play has been with the intern side. We haven't seen anybody attack the out-turn side, have we?
That's an example. Again, there's a good shot of it there. You could go around that yellow with the out-turn, around where it says capital in the Capital One sign. You could go around that way and sit 3 here, and it's just something we don't play very often with a narrower sheet in Canada.
Okay. I think this is fine.
Alrighty, so
13-9 to T.
I think Amber's gone to the other turn to throw a guard, so Bing Wang cannot make that raise that she just threw.
We can leave it. We're at 1.
line's pretty good.
Line's fine now, all you. Okay, we're okay.
Over and stop.
So you look ahead now. Do you think maybe China and Wang will play that out-turn draw as a way to get out of it? It'd be a dangerous draw, certainly.
Yeah, and it looks impossible, but there's so much curl, Vic. You could certainly grab part of the 12-foot and sit second shot.
Good. With the right weight and not pounding it, they do curl.
Nice guard by Amber there. It should take a lot of ice to make that.
不是，我就说从外侧投完之后，这会儿也是很好打掉的。
So it's decision time for her, Russ. What does she do here?
Well, I think that shot we talked about, see where her broom is. You could actually go around this way, like we talked about, around the capital sign into there, and possibly sit second shot. I don't think she can get shot rock, but the problem with that, Vic, is that then allows a heavyweight takeout through here for Canada to sit 3.
What's she playing here?
I have no idea.
I mean, what kind of an angles? Unless she's is she going to bump up a yellow to get the red? I don't know.
Yeah, the yellows are staggered a bit. She might be playing the long yellow.
Just above the C in capital?
Just above the C in the right-hand capital and run it back onto the red, but very dangerous, Vic.
Well, she certainly didn't seem to look at all at the shot you described.
No, she's not. And she's throwing the shot I described with the other turn, as it turns out. She's playing the draw through the hole, but I think it's going to over curl that way. It's pretty light too, Vic.
And she'll crash on the guard, and now she just moved it over slightly. And there's the brush down, and so we'll see the draw for a possible 3 here. Canada sitting 2 as we play here in 4.
As long as we're right on the T line.
We just need full 8.
Just takes one mistake,
Needs to be
doesn't it?
deeper than that.
China was playing an angle raise for 5 a few minutes ago, and now it's a free draw for 3.
I'm really surprised, aren't you, that she didn't look at this shot that we're about to see here?
Exactly, because Amber obviously thinks it's makeable, and in being Wang, Vic, if she gets through that port, it would have overcurled anyways. I'm not sure what she was trying. That's why I made the statement. I'm not sure, because there's no way she could have made that shot. There's too much curl. This is the turn she needed.
We'll wait till the end to go.
So a great opportunity after Canada and Amber Holland had made the mistake in 3. So trying to split the house and draw going through the back. Now Canada has a chance to break it open here in the 4th.
Sweepers have to be careful. It's a little wider than they've been. There has to be a bit of pebble. This could slow down here. Yeah,
and it's light out of her hand. As Kalinchuk and Tammy Schneider have backed right off, Canada will get their first points. Comes here in 4. Canada now leading it 2-1
That wasn't even
here in
close.
Esbjerg.
No. Yeah, but I don't think a 13-7 would have got it today either. Wow, you picked up.
It's the opening day of the Capital One World Women's Curling Championship presented by Ford of Canada. We're at the Granley Hockey Arena in Esbjerg, Denmark. We're on the west coast of the country, about a 3-hour train ride west of Copenhagen. And this is the opening game for Team Canada and Amber Holland, as she gets 2 in the 4th to take a 2-1 lead. Now, having said that, and you're not unhappy with taking the lead, but we're not seeing a very sharp Amber Holland so far, are we?
Not at all. Free draw for 2 with their first rock, whipped it through in the 2nd or 3rd end, sorry, and that was a tough shot because they had to go to a fresh path, but they called for 13-7, which is a harder throw, and Amber underthrew it, but not even close. And they're going to have to be careful. Is it the rocks or is it the spots? In that case, I think it was fresh pebble, Vic. Nobody went out that wide for the draw to the button. In practice, we threw a lot of hits for 2 or 3 ends. Once you get into a fresh path, you're hitting fresh pebble. That's going to slow, with these rocks, that's going to really slow it down. And the teams, as the week goes along, will figure that out, but that could be a costly error.
So China with the last rock playing the Redstones here in 5. Canada comes in, up goes the corner. Heather Kalinchuk with a nice draw behind. And this is Yen Cho throwing the lead stones for the Chinese team from Harbin. Running it back, jamming it, and it'll spin to sit on the button. It's out in the open, however.
Even though it's not in the rings, it's too dangerous to ignore. You have to hit that. Love to hang around, maybe roll to Amber's broom and guard the rock on the button, but get rid of that red rock. It can be used later. Too many teams will ignore it because it's not in the rings, but it obviously can be raised later.
Hard! Hard! Quick! Hard on the roll, Heather! Hard for the roll. Go, go, go.
Trying to roll it over and just can't. Tammy Schneider.
We did. You might want to just reiterate that with her. Good throw.
Qingxua Yue. That's a very nice roll to sit covered T-line in the 4-foot.
You see this at all the championships, no matter how good the athletes are. There's an adjustment period to the rocks, to the ice. In this case, it's more the rocks. The rocks are very sharp. Most of the women's field play with maybe 3.5 feet of curl. They have at least 4 here. In the case of the Chinese team, it's more like 5.5 to 6 feet on a draw. And it's just making that adjustment. And the first 2 ends, everybody was narrow on everything. Little light in spots, but now the adjustment's been made, and we'll see some really good come-arounds here now. Beautiful roll there. look at that curl off that center line.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
This might over curl.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay.
Wow. That
It
broom,
does. Yeah, pops out the other side.
that broom, Vic, was where the red rock is on the button, and it's curved, you know, a
9.5.
good 5 feet.
Okay, let's get this roll.
Looking for the hit and roll here over on the corner.
Yeah, try to tighten it up, get close to the other red. Then if China hits it dead on, there might be an angle here.
Let's update you on other scores. The USA has scored 1. They trail Switzerland 2-1. Czech Republic and 18-year-old Anna Kubetskova ahead of Scotland. And Russia with 3 in the third. Steal 3 more. Ludmila Privivkova ahead of Ji Sun Kim.
Another nice roll. The Chinese team is starting to put the broom in the right spot here. 2 perfect rolls, a perfect come around, a well-played end here.
这边好像有点直了，弧线没那么大。Whoa! 9.5. Whoa! 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 Hey.
So it's set up here for China to get a couple right back.
But still 9?
That's why it was so important with Amber's 2 draws. The one in the 4th end was a difficult one regardless, but you'd love to make those. A 3-1 lead makes a big difference.
Well, still a chance here, isn't there, for us to get out of this? Maybe hold them to 1, even force, or even steal, I think, if you get the right roll, right?
If Amber hits this thick enough, you'd have to throw virtually peel weight. I think normal weight puts it, the roll would put you towards the button, which also shrinks the scoring area, gets the 2 red rocks closer together. But I think if she those peel at this, Vic, you could run right over to that red one and you'd be undercover. She's just throwing normal weight here, so she's just trying to roll over a little bit.
Close. Whoa! 9-3. Whoa! Whoa!
He's running now.
Okay, that's time.
You heard Kim make the comment, it's running now. That means it's running a much straighter line. It's almost a run in the ice, which is a straight spot, but it's not that. It's just the pebbles wearing off, and they've gone from lots of friction to less friction. Makes the difference in the line.
You mentioned Mark Shurek, the ice maker, the head ice maker from Stonewall, Manitoba. It's been a busy couple of weeks for Mark because we saw him as well at the Tim Hortons Briar in London, Ontario. He was assisting and working together with Hans Vutrick, and they finished a course last Sunday. And he was on the plane as of Monday afternoon. Work had already begun here at the Granley Arena.
This is a great surface. He's done a wonderful job, the crew here, and it's not simple. This floor is made of 2x2 squares of cement all put together, and to get the ice level was one trick, but to keep it consistent is another, and different crowds, different air temperatures, humidity levels. There's a lot to making great curling ice, and this is as good as it gets.
This facility was built back in 1976. Chance to get out of this?
Like 10?
Like 10, yeah. Let's go. Got it. 还是没太下线哈。
10?
Just trying to hit
Okay.
and
Try to get
flop
a
over
little
here, and it makes it
inside
more
there. Come on.
difficult for China to come down and get that because of the guard.
Finish here.
What China was hoping to do is get that red one in here dead buried, and that would have made it very difficult and a possible chance for 3.
So you got it. There you go.
It's very predictable, Vic, if you play in these type of ice conditions as much as some of the players, you kind of see what happens. All of a sudden, it's running straighter. The hits, you heard them talking about it tracking and running straight. The same with that come around for China. It ran straighter than it had been.
Final stone for Canada. The chance here to maybe glue one on the corner or sit right in the crotch
Anything?
and then hold the Chinese to a single. But we've seen this before. Amber Holland is not quite sharp here in this opening game. She missed a draw earlier. Missed a draw for a possible 3. And now there
You're quiet if anything.
is heavy. And so it will be a chance for China to get a couple and to retake the lead going to the break.
Yeah, that was overthrown, and it's adjusted. The pebbles wearing off. There's less friction. The rocks are getting straighter. You can hear them talk. It's a sick feeling as an athlete because you're not quite confident, Vic. And it's one thing to play the best team, one of the best teams in the world in China, but you'd like to come with your A game, and they're going to have to really focus on this change. It has straightened out. Who's going to figure it out first?
Hurry! Hurry,
Boy, this is no bullet. They've got to go on this one.
Boy, everybody's out now.
Hurry!
Li Yu and Yu Wei and Cho. This is a great opportunity here. They've just got to get it to the 8 foot, and they do. So nice brushing by the Chinese champions as they will pick up a couple here in 5. We're midway through this opening game for Canada here at the World Women's Curling Championship. China with a 3-2 lead.
The 2011 Capital One World Women's Curling is brought to you by Ford, official automotive partner of the Canadian Curling Association. The 2011 Capital One World Women's Curling is brought to you by Tim Hortons Premium Blend Coffee, always 20 minutes fresh, by M&M Meat Shops, hundreds of meal ideas, one aisle, and by Purex Bathroom Tissue. Its softness they'll notice.
Welcome back to the 5th largest city here in Denmark. We are in Esbjerg, about 71,000 people. It's time to check the numbers after 5. They're brought to you by Tim Hortons Premium Blend Coffee, always 20 minutes fresh.
Team Canada's 82% for the game. That's awfully good when we talk about the changing ice conditions and the big swing. 76 for China. The big difference is actually in the hitting percentage. 77 China, 88 Canada. So the Canadian team's now getting the broom in the right spot, but they have missed a couple key draws.
Yeah, Amber Holland in particular, not sharp through the first 5. China with a 3-2 lead over the Canadians, and Canada will have the hammer when we come back to Esbjerg. We are in the oil capital of Denmark, Esbjerg, as now Esbjerg and its harbor service so many of the offshore oil rigs in the North Sea. As we welcome you back, Heather Kalinchuk throwing the lead stones for Team Canada here in the 6th. Canada does have the last rock, playing the yellow stones, and they're down by 1. China leading 3-2 in this opener for Amber Holland and the World Women's Curling Championship.
Slight mistake by Yen Chow. That's one of those you get caught in between. They wanted to have a tight guard, and they overswept it and swept it half in the rings, which means you can hit it, and then if it's hit properly, as Heather did, it's now not in the rings, it's in the free guard zone, and the Chinese team can't do anything about that rock. And you either want it fully in or not in at all, and just a bit of a miscommunication on the sweeping. A nice chance for Canada here already. teams get caught, Vic, they like to have that first rock so close to the rings, but obviously once it's in, they can hit it, and you're much better to leave it 2 or 3 feet, have that X 3 feet in front of the rings, not 3 inches in front of the rings, and you won't make that mistake.
Boy, that stone barely makes it across the hog line from Yen Cho.
Virtually the same spot that Amber came up way light. Amber was 20 feet light on that out-turn side. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
That's right. You remember back into the 4th, that was Canada's opportunity to possibly draw for 3, settling for the deuce.
Good chance at a split here if this curls enough to tap the top one.
Yep, keep going, keep going. Keep going! Fine, Heather.
You see how valuable that rock out in front was. Because the Chinese team came half in the rings, Canada hit it, stayed in the free guard zone. China could not do anything about it. Now Canada sitting 2. We'll see how aggressive Amber is. You might hit that dangerous rock, but with a 1-point deficit and Hammer utilizing the corner guard here, going to play an aggressive call. I like that. I like this strategy.
85, 90, Phil. I think 90, 95, yeah. Hey, let's go.
90-95 they're calling for, which is the short form for 390, 395, which is 3.95 seconds from back line to hog line. Gives the sweepers a rough idea how hard the rock's been thrown, but you still have to use your eye. You still have to judge it. There's different paths that we've already talked about. The wide out-turn side on the left-hand side of the sheet's much slower than this path.
Better, I think. Yeah.
Trying to bury here, might sweep it at the end.
Nice weight.
Nice way,
No, it's
Tam.
there.
And it's covered by that long guard. Remembering now Canada does have the last rock. So Canada is sitting 2 with the Hammer here in 6.
Tremendous form with all 4 curlers from China. Square shoulders, good balance. Love to roll towards the other yellow here.
And there she will too, and just across the top. So Canada continues to sit 1 back edge of the 8.
So you're there. Yeah. Okay.
You see the seats here at the Granley. It has a capacity of nearly 4,200, but as in so many European arenas, there's only seating for about 800. The rest of them are for standing room. Standing on one side, standing at the ends.
We don't want to go at all.
Hey, curling now. Curling hard now. Yep. Curling really hard now.
Should be able to dead bury this around that long guard and stop the yellow double opportunity for China.
Actually comes out the other side.
Yes.
Canada is sitting 2.
Yeah.
That's better though, Vic, having it over buried. There's no double.
Not quite. Thought it was going to.
China forced to hit the open rock, but it's behind the tee line, so wherever this lands, it's an opportunity for Canada to be aggressive.
The catcher on the outside leaves a second Chinese stone in the rings.
Probably there. I don't know if we can get there though. I don't know if you can. You could go here too. I don't mind that. I think that's the easier one. Probably can get around it.
The reason that she said she couldn't get to where she initially indicated to the outside in the 12-foot is why.
There's so much curl. If you look at that red rock at the top of the 12-foot, there's so much curl. To get by that, you'd be running out of real estate going towards the board. So they decided to go the other way, come around the corner guard again. Unfortunately for Canada, the yellow one isn't quite deep enough. So I think if Kim, unless she freezes right to it, I don't think she'll be sitting 2. But this is the right call, Vic. You'll have 2 buried. Hopefully sitting 2 for Canada.
Stay close. 70.
Just chain, you don't have to go.
Stay close, line. 70.
Kim's just made this shot. They know the path.
Needs to move a lot.
No, it's fine. It's really close, you guys.
Got a curl. They're going to set up a double
Deep,
here.
You're real deep.
I'm not real deep.
Yep.
That works.
Fine.
I thought the initial call was freeze to the yellow, but I don't think they would sit two, as I pointed out. So that's a good call, too.
No, they're sitting two for sure as the stone stops back edge of the 4, and it is covered.
Bad news is it's that little bit behind the tee line. It's a bit of an out opportunity for China. If they can freeze to the side of this Canadian rock, it eliminates both yellows for the time being.
加上不磕，轻磕了，轻磕了，哦，开力量，轻磕了，轻磕了，力量，
Oh, just slides by that yellow. Great throw.
And a little tap back, and China now sitting shot stone without last rock here in 6.
Just squeaks the guard here. They really, in hindsight, should have been sweeping this sooner to keep a bit of an angle. This is actually over curled, and I think Canada can remove this to sit 3 if they choose to. Big shot for Kim here. A little bit of a straighter spot. You can't overthrow this.
Clean, good, back line. Clean, yep, back line. Yep, hard.
Got to get it by the guard. They do. Now they got to get it by their own stone sitting top 12. No, a little rub, a little roll. And it will spin and just hanging onto the back line.
Just a little bit. Just, it's a fine line. Once it decides to go, it's gone, right?
Crap, that was great. Wait.
It's okay.
Very impressed with Kim's weight control. She really does throw exactly what Amber asked for. There's not too many players that do that. It just got a little caught in the sweep. Once across the center line, it broke a little quicker than they anticipated. That's what it's all about with this big swing, is that anticipation. When do you get on the brooms? Is it overthrown a little bit? You have to stay off it. You can track it back. And that one they didn't quite call the sweeping soon enough. Decision for Bingu Wang here. Do you guard this rock or do you bring another one in and try to bury and sit 2? Bringing it in is a smart call, but if you leave it wide open, you might set up a double here for Canada.
Bingu Wang and the first skip stone here in 6. A nice draw to sit 2 without last rock. China putting some pressure on the Canadians.
Perfectly positioned.
Are you there?
I think so. Just to there, yeah. Don't even worry about the back one. Just get this to there, hey, through the hole.
Like hack or back line again?
I like that back line.
Okay. I think back line is good.
Yep. Back line, just try to push it through and roll over. So what are we here?
We're 59-15.
Delicate spot here. The good news for Amber is Kim just threw it. Basically, it's the same shot, maybe a shade more weight. Hit a quarter of this. This is over buried though, Vic. A long guard, but so that's all weight control. This will finish if it's weight soft enough.
Kalinchuk and Schneider go back right off. You can hear Kim Schneider now. There's the hit. There's the roll.
Hard.
And it'll spin and stay in play. Back edge. Now the Canadians have got 3 ringing the 8-foot. So I would think that the Chinese have to be a little careful here not to set something up.
That was the pattern at the Olympics, Vic, with the Chinese team. When they first broke on the national stage, they hit everything that moved, everything in sight, incredible technique, but it was all defensive strategy. All of a sudden, they flipped the switch early last year before the Olympics, and rocks all over the place. And this is a great example. If Wang puts us in that same spot, they take the end away. If she doesn't, if she makes a mistake, it's a chance for 4. They're almost aggressive to a fault sometimes, and this is not the wrong call this late in the end, but it's still an opportunity if this doesn't fall in the right spot.
You saw the Chinese coaching staff watching as their skip, Wang, throws her last here in the 6th.
Oh, this is curling in a hurry, Vic. It doesn't seem to have the speed.
Oh, now it's a big struggle. Just get it by their own guard. And this is going to be a big break for the Canadians.
A huge break, because by hitting that guard, you'd hope to roll one way or the other and take it away. And this shot is here. It's dead buried. But this is a chance for 4.
Just they'll have to tap this stone out of the 8-foot and sit there for 4. And it's a head shaker for Wang.
Oh, what happened to that one? That wasn't even close speed-wise. She made the first one perfectly. And this is what happens when you play aggressively without hammer. You have to execute perfectly, and they did for 7 rocks, but not that important 8th. This isn't a gimme, because we watched Kim throw on there, didn't bend much. At least they know the spot, though.
Draw weight's been a little bit of a struggle for Amber Holland so far. Down 3-2, final rock, and a chance for 4. So far, nothing from Kalinchuk. Now, Schneider, Kalinchuk. This is a great opportunity. Get it by their own, top of the 8-foot. Tap it back, sit, and there they are. Canada will get 4 here in 6.
Oh my God.
You tend to forget all those early missed chances when you score 4. Canada picks up a bundle in 6, and now up 6-3. It was 2 years ago that Wang made history. Her win over Sweden's Annette Norberg in the final of the 2009 Worlds in Korea gave China their first ever gold medal. It was her 2nd straight medal after winning silver a year earlier in Vernon, BC, losing the final to Team Canada and Jennifer Jones. It really has been a tremendous rise for China, the 4-time Pacific champion. However, she lost the most recent Pacifics, won a bronze medal in Vancouver, and of course, as mentioned, is the 2009 world champion. As we welcome you back to Esbjerg, Denmark, the Capital One World Women's Curling Championship, presented by Ford of Canada. Canada with 4 in 6. They have a 6-3 lead as China now has the last rock here in 7, playing the Red Stones.
It's a funny sport, Vic. China played a pretty nice end there, but a couple nice shots. Kim came around, tapped it back. Kim came around with a nice come around. Amber, with her first one, tapped out one of the Chinese rocks that was dead buried, stayed in the rings. One mistake by China, and it brings up a huge 4 here. Now, in the 7th, China slips the corner guard into the rings, and an opportunity for Canada to hit it, and no guards in play, which is exactly what Canada's looking for.
And maybe more importantly for Amber Holland, that little bit of confidence. If she was in fact feeling a little bit iffy about her game, that will certainly settle her.
Exactly. It's huge. You're over in a strange country. You've never been here before. You've got the weight of the Maple Leaf on your back, and Amber did struggle. She threw 2 pretty bad draws, to be honest. One was in a spot she didn't understand. You can give that one away, but the one she missed in the 3rd end should have been made. And you start to think you're down a point, you're not playing your A game, and a great 4-ender there, and that has to make a massive difference. You walk out with a victory here to China, who's the world champion 2 seasons ago. That's just a massive start if they can hang on here.
Well, you remember she ran off 8 straight at the Scotties in Charlottetown to get off to a More than a great start, a remarkable stretch of wins. How different is it, Russ? You've and Kalinchuk just barely touching the guard.
Like that rotation.
Now, in arenas, we're always told you should put on more rotation, right? Yeah, and I think, and she normally does. It's just, I think what's happening is the pebble's wearing off in spots, not out wide yet, but in that spot for sure, and it's getting a little straighter.
This is Qinghua Yue.
Okay.
Doesn't quite make the double. But I was going to ask you, I mean, does it change that dramatically, going from the nationals to represent the country in terms of pressure?
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. There's no question about it. My best example would be the Olympic team as a Gushu that I was in 5 seasons ago. We played the Canadian Trials 10-team event. We were ranked 9th going into that event. Every time we won a game, it was like, let's celebrate. You know, there was virtually little pressure. It was amazing. I remember playing Furby. We were 2-0, and it was like, oh well, if we lose this, everybody's going to lose to Randy. We're 2-1, and you go a little bit looser. You sometimes communicate better. You play a little better. You execute better. And we won that thing going 9-1. We get to the World Championship, the Olympics, and now we're favored to win a gold medal. We're team number 1, and we're playing, you know, some of the best teams in the history of the sport. Now we're supposed to win, and it's a different mindset altogether.
Canada sitting the 2 without last rock here in 7.
There is a corner guard available later for China, so they'd love to hang around here. That's not good. Chance to rip the corner, and Amber, being the expert that she is, she's going to take that off. A lot of teams won't. They try to split the house here, Vic, hoping for a force to 1, but that's the dangerous rock. That has to be eliminated.
Is that still one of the differences that you notice between the elite Canadian teams and the elite teams of other countries? The other countries still seem to overthrow things, throw a little too much weight. I mean, she didn't overthrow that by a lot, but it wasn't controllable weight to hold the shooter, to stick around, which was all important.
That was the key. You didn't have to make the double. Matter of fact, the double would be worse. You just had to hang around, and you're right, Vic. And I think today, in this case, to give China the benefit of the doubt, the ice has straightened out here now a little bit, and it wasn't necessarily too much weight, but it's the broom in the wrong spot, or vice versa, too much weight for the broom positioning, because you're right, you have to control that shooter. It's a lot like snooker. It's not always the shot you make, it's the shot you leave. As soon as you roll out like that, you leave that opportunity for Canada to peel the guard, and there's virtually, unless there's a perfect freeze, there's virtually no opportunity to score 2 here now. China, realizing Canada wants to eliminate, is just going to throw a guard and hope for a mistake. This spot's getting straighter and straighter as the game goes along.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. It's easier up here, Vic. There's no question about it, but it is predictable, isn't it? End number 1, if we replayed end number 1, every single miss, and there were quite a few of them on the 16 rocks that were thrown, were either narrow or light or a combination of both.
Well, Kim, remember, she missed, right?
Wide open.
She was light and tight.
Over curl by a mile, and all of a sudden, you say to yourself, well, I better not be narrow, as the ice straightens out, and it's kind of a double whammy, and that's an unforced error by Canada.
And so a chance here for the Chinese to wrap one around the corner.
Gotta go for speed.
Wang out as well on the stone from Yin Liu. And they'll drag it there. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like they got it there for shot. Canada still sitting the 1, back 12.
You might see Amber ignore this one. This isn't an easy shot. You could just simply draw for 2. It's late in the end. You only have to do it twice.
The adjustment, if the pebble is wearing down, then it's all important when it comes to draw weight, right? I mean, everything's just going to flatten out. It's not going to slide as easily. And
Well, eventually, yes, Vic, it could slow down that much. At this point in time, I think the speed's still there, but you're right. Down the middle where the wear and tear is, it could slow down.
She still has to play this to get to that, right?
Yeah, it's just right now it's a tougher draw leaving it there for her.
Yeah. You could do this.
Yeah.
Simply split the rings.
Here or here.
Yeah.
That's the easiest shot.
But
Well, if I go there, even if I half tuck, she plays the double.
yeah, so you gotta go over here then.
I don't know. I think I like there. Hey.
Let's go.
You like open side?
I'm okay with it.
Well, we could
Her
tuck it
Fonger.
too around theirs, or like I can play that top one, but I guess you can
saw
see it
his
off the
side
back, too.
score 4 and 6.
As long as I'm second shot. I think back 8.
Okay.
You need to say nibble of the 8 foot.
Okay.
Okay.
I think if you give us 13-9, Amber.
Okay.
So we're going back house?
Yeah. Well, it's 13-9 T.
Yeah.
I like this call, Vic, a lot. A, it's the easiest shot, and it's the old story. You can call the wrong shot. If you make it, you've now called the right shot. So this is a simple shot. Put it in the 8 foot. Keep some separation, which is the easiest part. You know it's going to curl away from the ring for the center line. And it's just getting it deep enough that there's no double. That hit was dangerous. It's got to slow down, though.
Fine throw.
And it will stop back 8. Let's update you on some other scores. The U.S. got 1 and 5. They're tied with Switzerland. Scotland is trailing Czech Republic. They're playing in the 7th.
You keep it a hair, you're fine.
And Russia, Ludmila Privkova, the former world junior champion, Euro champion, scored 2 more up easily now, 8-3 over Korea.
它那边那黄球季啊，那边那黄球季吗？2个黄的现在是，2个黄的。捐一个，行。今儿也刚才是多少？14.5吧。14秒5，你按14秒到14.5吧，好，加油。夏天的话，把2个红球分一下。行。
Choice for China to hit. There's no double opportunity, so the only way they can score multiple points is to duck around their own red rock at the top of the 12 foot.
Cho and Yue trying to wrap it around the corner. By the corner and by their own top 12. And maybe the extra brushing here will hurt them. No, it'll just stop. Shot stone is still Canada in the 8 foot.
That makes a big difference, Vic, because now they just have to split the rings again. Freeze to the back if they want is the safest call. They could go around the corner higher, makes the scoring area a little smaller, but that might set up a double by leaving it on the tee line. So I think you'll see Amber go right to the back.
As long as we're biting the 8 foot, right?
Yeah.
She's drawing for 1. I think it's going to curl a bit more going this way. Right to it, hey?
Okay.
So can I give you the same? You need a little less.
No, I think close to the hair less. We never sweat yours at all. So he gets a hair less.
Now, Amber was heavy with her first rock in the 3rd end, and she was light with her, noticeably light with this rock in the 4th end. So we'll see if there's a problem with the rock. We'll know here, because this spot's pretty predictable.
Line's great.
4, 5, good hand. You need 5. Hard.
Really hard.
Final stone for Canada and Amber Holland here.
We're gonna tap them in.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Make a decision here. You don't want to tap that red.
I don't think it moved it far enough. But there is the chance here for 2 now for
Guess I could've
China
given you the
in
same.
7.
Wondering about that rock, Vic. Amber was basically at the hog line with a draw for 3 in the 4th end with that stone. I blamed it on the surface out wide. We'll see what she says.
Wow, that wasn't even close.
We were here yesterday during practice, Russ, and you were pointing out how
加油啊！
the team, along with Coach Murphonger, go through the matching of stones, and
行。
you'd think you try to get that all sorted out before you start playing.
It's funny you say that. I bumped into Kim right after practice. I said, how are the rocks? She said, pretty good. And she said, we really worked on the skip rocks and the vice rocks because our 5th will come out at night and match the rest of them. It's because it's hard on 15 minutes a sheet to figure out all 16 stones. So they really tried to concentrate on Amber's and Kim's, but I'm wondering if that rock's a little slower.
Final stone, the hit and stick for China. So they pick up a couple as they will take a look. But it doesn't appear. It looks like the 3rd shot is the one at the back. Yep, they say.
先拿走了，这两个先拿走。
2 it is.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. Guess I didn't need to give you less.
Well, you gave us quite a bit.
They look like they are going to call for a measure here, despite the fact from what we say. Didn't look that close.
I think you're right on this one, Vic.
Had a pretty good year.
Yeah. Well, sorry about that.
Okay.
So China has scored a couple. Now they'll put the stick on these. I mean, from that angle, it doesn't look
I'd say the one at the back.
that close, but we'll see now.
对，不用把那个放在心上了。这不第2局，这第2反过来就给他机会了。
I mean, a huge 3rd possible point for the Chinese here. The 3 would tie the game after 7. There's no doubt. Interesting way of doing things, though. In our country, we would go the other way. But that results in 2 for China. Yes, 2 it is. Canada continues to lead. The pedestrian area in downtown Esbjerg. On a Saturday, opening game for Team Canada as they get 4 and 6, and then after the measurement, China gets 2 and 7, and so here we go to the 8th from the Granley Hockey Arena. 6-5 Team Canada. Amber Holland does have the last rock playing the Yellowstones here in 8th.
Good.
Smell 我。
OK， 5区。学校 OK， 指示力量。3，踩。踩。德力踩，加油！来了，踩。
So center line guard goes up. Russ, Canada comes around, and now so do the Chinese.
But a little light, Vic, and it's back to what you said. I think as that pebble wears off, we'll have to keep an eye here. It's day 2, but it's kind of day 1. There was only 1 draw last night, so
And just the 2 games.
yeah. So the ice is always greener. What people don't quite realize is you have to flood to level the surface, put the circles on, paint everything, put the ribbons in, all the logos. The ice is what we call green. It's a little less frost in it.
Needs to move.
It's almost like if you were making ice in your refrigerator. If the ice is brand new, it's clear and there's no frost on it. If the ice is a year old, for instance, you'd have frost all over it. And the same thing happens here. Once this ice cures a little bit, gets a little bit of frost into it, it will become a little bit more consistent.
Now, the other thing is that the first draw last night was just 2 games, and they were played on the 2 center sheets. So, in fact, this is the first game of the tournament. So, yeah, they're breaking it in. They're wearing it in.
And it always makes a difference. It really does. And there'll be spots that are there now that won't be there later in the week. It's still a great sheet, but it's tough to be precise. Will it slow down? That's what we have to look for.
Going after second shot and sitting there back edge of the 8-foot.
Great call by Amber. You know, 1-point lead. You've got one buried. You've got the hammer here. You'd be tempted to draw a second one in. Once China came up light, you'd sink another one and try to put a lot of pressure on. But that closes the scoring area. Going to the open side like this, China almost has to hit it. Now Amber can hit it, and you're drawing the play away from that buried rock. All Canada wants to do here is score. Even if it's a single, there'll be 2 points up with 2 to go. There's a mistake. You'd love to hang around, and the mistakes are on the wide side now.
It's interesting, though, a bit of a shrug of the shoulders from Amber Holland as to say, don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, and all it is the pebble. It's pebble's worn off a little bit. It happens in every curling club and every game ever. And as the pebble wears off, because these rocks are so aggressive, they're so sharp. The bottoms of the rocks are actually sharp, more porous, more friction. They react to the pebble differently than maybe your rocks at home at your local curling club. And if you have not played arena conditions, this is what happens. And it's just an awareness factor. It's gone from real swingy to straight in spots, and it's up to the skips to figure that out. Another little mistake down the slower area.
Qingxua Yue with the rub on the guard, top edge of the 12, spills out into the open.
I like a 10, I think.
Go, Cam. Let's go.
Oh, this spot is much straighter than it has been. Tammy's going to try to throw soft weight here, give it to the sweepers.
Clean.
Tammy Schneider
Yep.
playing second stones here in the 8th. Canada's up by 1. By 1. And the little flip. And the little push back on the shot stone. Shooter now rolls into the open top 12. Canada is sitting 2.
Chance for a double here, though. Would love to roll buried there. Would have been a nice opportunity to sit 2 in behind cover.
Yin Liu. Trying to jump it back behind cover. Gets the little bounce, backs up. Now, did she push a corner of that stone out into the open?
Just a little bit, I think, Vic. And more importantly, it wasn't the double, but by rolling buried, we're now playing inside the 8-foot, which makes the scoring area that much smaller for Canada.
I think so. Thank you. Just the corner freeze is good.
Let's go.
Kim Schneider.
More line and Heather. In the room. 6.
And we'll see if the ice is slowing down. They yelled 6. If it's the pebbles flattening out a little bit, this might not be a 6.
Just to it. Wow. Just to it. No bounce. Wow. 6.
Don't bounce off.
Good.
Do you like the angle of the stones, though?
I like the angle, but that little bit of a bounce rolls the yellow open, and it's possible, Vic, I think, if China can slide by that center guard, they might be able to make the double. If that was frozen, that was the idea, and it didn't slow down like I think they expected. No double available, so China will play the other turn, raise their own red, half a rock onto the one that Kim just threw.
Qinghua Yue and Yin Shou with a big scrub for China. Oh, they did well there. Angle it back. Pushing the Canadian stone to the edge of the 8. Canada still sitting shot, top of the button. Second, third shot, though, belonged to the Chinese.
Another one underthrown. I'm not sure whether that was human error or it's the ice, and that came down in a hurry, and it worked out well, though. It again makes the scoring area even smaller. So either an angle freeze, Vic, or if the line's perfect, they'll be able to sweep it in the end and tap it and loosen the red away from the yellow so they can remove it later. Just a 2-inch bump would be absolutely perfect. Like to bump it, but line's more important. You can't roll off. Just jiggle this a little bit. Great stone.
Kim Schneider with a pressure shot here in the 8th.
Change turns here inside out. Going to try to hit about a quarter of this yellow, and a thin double is available, or hit it thick and roll into the pile. That'd be a really thin double, Vic. The method to the madness here, though, is even if you hit it thick and you roll into the top of the 4-foot, yes, Canada will be sitting one, but how do they possibly score more than one?
Binghu Wang, and the first of the skip stones here in 8. Canada up by 1, and sitting shot rock, top of the button. And she rolled it over to the edge. Canada continues to sit 1. It's time for the game story now, brought to you by Scotty's, proud supporter of women's curling for 30 years. And the big difference was that 6th, when Wang came up light, and Amber Holland made a very nice come around hit and stick for the 4. And interestingly enough, Holland is out curling Wang 88 to 77%. Surprises me a little bit, the numbers, considering those early misses we saw from Amber.
Yeah, because the 2 misses we keep picking on her about were very bad misses, and they weren't close, and normally Amber would be a lot closer than that, but she's made everything else, and that's been the difference in the game. And 88's a great start for your first game at a World Championship.
Could play the freeze.
Yeah.
What do you guys like? I like the first call, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Just a 10? Like Tammy threw, or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because we got to cross it.
Yeah, to here. And get rid of them both.
More than that, Kim.
More?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll finish.
Yeah, let's go. You play the, she may just play the guard, but. 9?
10.
2 options here. Both of them are a problem. The gray arrow calls for a Chinese red to take the yellow out, and the green one shows the red-yellow raise. Both of them are dangerous options that Amber has to deal with.
Now, she just mentioned that red stone top 8. She has to come across the face, just get across the nose to angle it out without touching the shot rock.
Yeah, exactly. Because if he hits it on the high side, on the outside half, she'll do the shot for China. So she has to get across the face here. Hopefully jiggle that yellow combination also would be a good move.
Oh, and Kalinchuk and Tammy Schneider have done nothing, and there you go. That's exactly what you said. She's made the shot for the Chinese.
This isn't curling. Like, it doesn't react like anybody else's. You had a ton of rotation, and yours worked.
I know.
Didn't overthrow it, and it still isn't moving. All of my draws are straight on it.
Hey, well, Tommy will throw it.
There you go. There's a talk about the stone.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Heather Kalinchuk said, just give it to me and I'll throw it.
I'm convinced, Vic, keep in mind, if a rock's straighter, it's because it's smoother. If it's smoother, it travels farther. And if you remember the draw that was missed by Amber Holland in the third end, she whipped it through the rings, so that would be with the smoother rock. Let's say she's throwing number 7 and 8. I don't know which one she's throwing, but her first rock, she threw it through, so that would be the smooth rock. Therefore, again, that ran straighter on her. The one she missed light was her last rock, and it was a sharper rock, which one of them's either normal or one of them's faster, whichever one it is. They're going to have to figure that out because it's really bothering Amber with her alignment calls.
2区3区呗，站着就行，行。
Really plays with your psyche too, Vic. When you do miss one light as she did with her last rock, then you tend to throw the second rock heavier, and it was in this particular case that's what caused the problem. She thought that rock would curl.
It's the final stone for the Chinese here in a great position to possibly steal.
停停。
So what's left? That, the tap up?
Yeah, very difficult, low risk, but a very difficult shot.
只有稍微多加点旋转了。我说我还多加点旋转。
That's about all she's got, Vic. You could try the outside red double.
Okay, need back 4.
But this is the simpler of the two shots.
To stay to high side.
Well played in by China.
Be close, hey?
I think so.
Little stickier out here, hey?
Maybe I could throw, yeah, just a hair stickier. Wow.
Like throw a 13-7?
No, it's like a 13-7 T out there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Here you go. And a hair more than that. Let's go.
So right now, China has the steal point. They've got the tying point.
room. Back 8. Hey,
Looking for a little angle raise here.
Not bad. No, needs
Canada and Amber Holland.
Line's not bad.
Final rock on its way.
We need to.
We don't have to go.
We gotta hit it a little
And
thinner
here,
then.
Kim Schneider calling line. Kalinchuk, Tammy Schneider, bump it up. Looking for shot stone, and how's that? It's a beauty by Amber Holland. Canada gets one more. They now are leading 7-5 in this opener of the World Women's Curling Championship.
Came down a lot, hey?
Was that? As we watch the Chinese throw their lead stones here in the 9th, Canada with a 7-5 lead over China. The opener for Amber Holland and the Canadian team from the Chrono Curling Club here at the Capital One World Women's Curling Championship presented by Ford of Canada. And what a nice shot for Holland to play the raise to the T-line edge of the button for the single.
Nice shot for a lot of reasons, Vic. It's a 2-point lead as opposed to tied. You're tied playing 9. You're forced to 1 and 9. China gets 2 and 10. You lose the game. But what I was impressed with is Amber has struggled a little bit with the rocks, and I think they've moved them around here now. But what weight you throw for that tap to the button, and she just made that perfectly. And it reminds me of watching the entire Scotties Canadian Championship. Every time she was called upon, the skipper made great shots, and that was wonderful timing for Team Canada. It's so easy to get frustrated when you do miss. She was really upset with her first one. It tracked on her. She couldn't believe what happened to it, but to forget about it, pass that off, jump in the hack, and execute a tap to the side of the button, that shows a lot of class.
You know, the other, is it attributable to concentration? Because when you think about it, She's had her good shots. She's almost been like the little girl with the curl. You know, she made that wonderful shot to come around, tap back to sit and score 4 when the opportunity was there. She misses with her first stone as the Chinese missed the double. But there, when the concentration is up and it's needed, she comes through with the tap.
Yeah, exactly, because it's, you know, the percentages can fool you. It's when you make them, and Amber's job description as skip is to make that last one, and that's what she keeps doing time and time again. You're absolutely right. We saw that with Cheryl Bernard a lot last year. She'd miss the odd shot that wasn't quite as important, but she'd make the big one at the right time. But that was a great tap back. It really was. That was a tougher shot than it looked.
Tammy is a office manager for the Saskatchewan Volleyball Association.
Smart call by China here. There's a simple double, but if they can tap the top one towards the button, create a bit of a wall that will allow their thrown rock to roll behind the corner, they'll not only have one buried, but they'll have a yellow wall that they can use later.
You can see by the numbers that Xinhua Yue is struggling at 65%.
Way too much weight on that one.
Enough to push one Canadian stone out. Shooter will roll too far. Canada remains shot stone back of the 8-foot.
Could peel a corner guard in this situation. Yes, it would allow China to sit 2, but you draw the play into the rings. It's tough for China to control that deuce for the rest of the end. And one little roll out, one double by Canada. And this way, it's not wrong either. You now can sit possibly 2 points, but they're both in bad positions. And you watch, China will ignore them and go around that corner guard and force Canada's next shot to be a lot tougher than this one.
That's fine, Tam.
And unable to hold the shooter.
Back a bit, yeah.
As we check in on Switzerland and the USA, Patty Lank returns to the World Championships, and we'll see the brusher on the right. That's her 16-year-old daughter. That's Mackenzie Lank out of Lewiston, New York, as they play Switzerland and Miriam Ott. And drawing against one. And there's the single to tie it at 3.
China did play the come around the corner, but way too deep, and it's also still open. That spot's become a little bit straighter, but if it's buried, Amber, yeah, there we go. Amber will run up and run the guard. I thought it was slightly open, but when in doubt, no, there it is there. You could hit the back one, but dangerous fix. So peel the corner, and you're back to that same situation you talked about 2 shots ago. It draws the play into the rings.
Yep. Wow. Clean time.
Good start for Kim Schneider at 80%. She's a developmental worker at Hope's Home.
As the week goes along, you'll get more and more comfortable, more and more familiar with the speed, the pass, the rocks, the actual change of the ice. So to curl 80% or higher, as almost all the curlers in this sheet have, that's a good start.
As does Yin Liu at 80%.
I'll do the numbers, Vic, you do the names.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they've become familiar to us now, the Chinese. I'm sure I embarrassed myself a few times earlier. But it's interesting, the Korean team that's here that beat China in the Pacific Championships is following the same Chinese model. The Korean team has been based a good part of their curling season in Calgary, and at the Calgary Curling Club. And in fact, the Koreans played in a bonspiel in Cochrane, Ontario. before coming over here, and they won it. They won the Bonspiel. So spending as much time as the Chinese did in Canada.
Makes a lot of sense. You look at a lot of the other sports, you know, Mike Weir, Stephen Ames, Canadians, golfers, they're down in the United States and trying to play against the best in the world. That's how you get better. And we're fortunate Canada to have certainly the majority of the top players in the world. And if you want to fast track your game, you got to get out there and play the best players in the world. China's decided late in the end not to play the guard this time. They actually sit 2 points, but this could set up a double. Big mistake.
Let's take a look at some of the player numbers. They're brought to you by M&M Meat Shops. Hundreds of meal ideas, one aisle. Good start for both the thirds. Interesting that Kim's numbers are much higher for draws, 5 as compared to 4, but 81% to 80%. Slight advantage to Canada's third, Kim Schneider.
When you're defending a lead, albeit only a 2-point lead, you want to remove those guards without hammer. That draws the play into the rings. Once the play's in the rings, yes, China can sit 2 points, but at some point in time, you might have a shot for a double. And this is a great chance here. It's a very easy double. Anything on the inside of this top rock will make it.
Very nice. That was, I mean, it's too, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it would have been tough to miss that one.
It's true. You can almost hit the back rock and make the doubles. Anything on the inside of either one of them. And China put that in the absolute wrong position.
You still have to execute, granted, but.
The really nice part is there's 2 in there now. So if China doesn't respond with a double of their own, it's a chance to force China to a single. And with the all-important hammer, 1-up coming home.
Just enough, it looks like.
I think so. That's important whether that's in or not. If Amber could sit for 2, this would be a big decision. Looks out, though.
Well, you see, maybe that back line. Now, of course, we go back to Charlottetown, and we had the mistake there, and some of the rings were slightly off at the Briar. That's one of the things that we always talk about, the teams part of their practice session, or when the 5th players come out with the coach at night. You do check those things.
You have to. 15 minutes in each sheet. Each country is allowed, and at some point in time, staying away from the players throwing rocks, you should run that 6-foot measure around and decide what these rings are like. That looks close, Vic.
Final stone for Canada and Amber Holland. Here in 9, up by a couple. Boy, I would love just to squeeze this out, avoid the jam.
Uh-oh.
And now she'll get away with the jam, but there's no doubt now, and so it'll be China playing for the blank.
We were on the outside, and then all of a sudden we were across nose.
Although, would you?
You could, Vic.
Would you take the single and try to steal it?
To answer
We were on the outside.
truthfully, I wouldn't. I would hit and roll out, but you absolutely could in this situation. There's some merit to that. You hit and stay for 1. You're 1 down. You're allowed 2 guards in the free guard zone. If you roll out here, you're 2 behind. When you go to throw your second guard, it can be hit. So you only really have 1 guard in the free guard zone. So it depends on how you want to attack. I'd still like to roll out myself. You'd love to have that last rock. Who knows, a couple of mistakes and you might have a shot for China for 3 points to win the game.
She missed her opportunity to roll out in the first, remember? And here again, she'll miss the opportunity as she banged that right on the nose. China gets their single. Canada has the lead in the hammer when we come back.
Farther out.
It went from like a 9.5 to like.
And then.
So we got 8.
Esbjerg here in Denmark. population of 70,000 or so on the west coast, 3 hours west of Copenhagen. As we welcome you back, it's our opening day coverage, the Capital One World Women's Curling Championship presented by Ford of Canada. And Canada with the lead and with the last rock. Center line guard goes up from China, and in comes the Canadian lead, Heather Kalinchuk.
The numbers on both teams have been good, Vic, but they're kind of shaking their heads at the same time. Even that last rock there by Heather, they were yelling, we better go deep, we better go deep. At the hog line, they're trying to make a decision that it was going well past the button, so they wanted to get it back 4, back 8, and it ended up in the perfect spot. It slowed down on them now. Is that the pebble wearing out, or is it the rocks? And we'll have to keep an eye. It definitely seems to be slowing down in this spot right here. Here's another one. They're trying to play the freeze, and all of a sudden, it's there, but barely.
Well, as we were going to break, I took note of the fact even Wang showing the emotion of shaking her head, thinking, my goodness, I was trying to roll out and I banged it almost on the nose.
Amber was trying to hit hers on the high side. It totally crossed the nose, hit it on the low side, and they were a little fortunate not to jam on that back rock. So to keep an eye on it, I'm sure it's not bad ice by any means. I'd love to be up there playing on it myself, but it has fooled both skips.
No.
What China did, which is a little unusual, is they came right into the rings pick. You normally would throw 2 guards going all out for the steal point because neither can be removed. Now with only 1 guard out in front, China has to be careful because that's what Canada's objective is going to be here, is to run these guards. This is not an advisable call at all. This is where China, even though they're phenomenal shot makers, there's, as we all know, it takes a while to become a smart team. And yes, you make the yellows go away, but there's only 1 long red guard. There's 2 rocks at the front of the rings that Amber can outdraw. If this was Amber's last shot of the game, she'd have a much better than 50% chance of winning, because those rocks are so high, and it's just a matter of cleaning the front off.
9.5's good. Let's go, Tammy, got this.
Pretty simple double here. High side, lots of weight.
Clean. Line. Yep. Whoa.
Nope.
Ooh.
In fact, she pushes it in behind the long guards.
Jump at the end.
So it's shot stone at the moment for China.
I thought pretty much.
Trailing by 1, needing to steal a tie or a possible win.
Little jet lag on that one, Vic. All they had to do is lay a broom to that. That was made perfectly, and that's going to hurt because that rock's in a great spot. It chokes off the in-turn side. This makes it a little more difficult for Canada to win this game.
注意带在你那边，3区，旋转少，带在你那边。Hard，看力量，擦过来。踩要，去踩，全力。Hurry。
Oh, great brush to get it by. And so the second guard goes up, and the bailing starts.
I thought they might have bailed on the previous shot instead of trying Tammy's double. The double was a great idea if you make it, but now there's, even if this is made, there is a nice guard for China to use for cover.
Good.
Two choices here. You could draw the top of the button dead buried sitting 2, or you could throw another guard. The guard would make the most sense.
OK， 去吧啊。下来了吗？2、3、2。
to set up a double here.
6.
Uh-oh.
擦磕一下。
I don't think it matters if it jams or not.
Just a slight mistake there. Obviously, China was light, but all they had to do is bring that red rock to there, and that's a tougher double. Now that they're on the angle like that, anything on the high side on Amber's where the broom is, both these rocks fly and the shooter flies. If you put them side by side, the double's almost unmakeable. All they had to do is sweep that a little bit.
Kim Schneider.
Clean.
And gets them both.
Great situation now. There's only the one red. China has to keep protecting it. Almost 6 feet of ice asked for here for this guard. Outside in release that the Chinese team has perfected allows these to really curl.
下擦一擦哟，往下擦一擦，全力，上下擦一擦，小手加油，上下擦一擦，一直擦，一直擦，擦到停为止，擦擦 hurry， 全力。OK。
That was interesting. I remember Dan
好球。
Raphael when he was coach of this team from Montreal, and he, as much as people would say their throws and their deliveries were so much different, he didn't try to change it. I mean, he worked with them, but you weren't going to change it. That's what they had gotten into.
Yeah, and I certainly don't disagree with it because it takes them a while to get used to this type of ice because there's so much curl, but it's really a weapon. I remember coaching at the Continental Cup, and I was holding the broom for Kevin Martin, and he was playing the Chinese men's team, which has the same trend, that outside-in motion. He was a little bit worried playing them, even though he was the favorite because of that. They could hide rocks, Vic, in spots that the Alberta team couldn't get to. So it is a bit of a weapon if you can perfect it. It's tougher to do with this big swing, though.
加油！
Amber, Holland, and the Canadians do have the lead. They also have the last rock here in 10. Skip stones, Bing Wang from China.
3、外侧，带着小手让下线。
A little deep here. An interesting call for Amber. You'd love to make the double and clean everything out of there. You could hit the shot rocks at 2. You could hit right there, might even be better, because if China goes around, you'd then have a raise. The double would be the very best option, but you kind of hate to leave the one in the 8-foot.
I don't mind this. Make her find the draw. It's gonna go way
I'm
out.
cutting my 4-foot way down then.
But you have this, yeah. Flash.
Yeah.
Whatever you feel,
I think I
though.
like this.
Okay.
There with heel.
Okay.
This is the fascinating part about the sport.
2/3.
Amber, by playing this shot, it's one of two things. If I make this, I'm going to have a pretty
You guys
easy
okay with that?
second shot, but this shot's hard. So do I take on the hard shot now, or do I take on the hard shot with my last one?
Now, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to look at. There's Kim Schneider checking over her left shoulder
It's hard on
because
that shooter, hey?
he angled this red one back. Russ, is there a chance it could come off and jam?
Yeah, the top red onto the second red. The top red could go back to that yellow one, but they're not too concerned about that, Vic, because it's so far out of that scoring area.
Yep.
But that
Amber
could
Holland and her first. Kalinchuk, Schneider.
It's close.
Backing off. 1, 2, spill it. Not quite. And it'll bump up and spin to the
Wow.
top edge of the 4.
Good sweep.
And boy, now that scoring area is closed down a bit.
Backed up quite a bit, eh?
did.
I wonder if she's changed rocks, because remember she was worried about her
Yes.
first one running straight, and that's exactly what happened with that one. The bad news there is it's now into the 4-foot, and even a straight guard forces Amber to a tough shot.
对，上了头，但是就一个球的话，我感觉
So we've had our first coach's visit.
这块呢，那就让他投了
Wei
就是
Chang. What do you do? What are you doing, coach?
我觉得应该往这儿投一个。
What are you playing here?
Well, you can tap it a foot or two, force Amber to play
我
the
觉得
double.
就往这儿
You
投
could put one right at the top of the, if you're looking at the circles as a clock, that the rocks at the 10, 11, it's about 11 o'clock position. You can put one at the 1 o'clock position,
我觉得可以
and
传一个。
then Amber has to hit and roll the deep cup shot. That's probably
这
the
个空间太大了，
most
让他
dangerous
投。
one, or a straight
而
guard,
且
a
这
tight
样
guard.
漏个边儿的话，对方保掉就没有了。现在他
对啊
现在领先1分。
往后传一下吧。
我觉得传的就比那个近就
哪怕你传正、传分开也行，是不是啊？
现在主要是就是你传完它以后，让它打的话没有底那颗近，就逼着让它投。可以往这传一个呗，直传一个，传到后区，
行。
传到后区，哪怕
Coach's visit is over.
传着他还考虑打不打，打不打打保呢，没准他投一个。
行，可以往那边传。
是不是啊？
Something like that, Vic, is probably the most dangerous, because Amber will not draw against 2 with a 1-point lead, and if she leaves it there, tries the double, doesn't make the double, and the red goes over there and stays, it's a possible steal of 2. So I think that would be the best shot. Depends on whether you want China wants Canada to draw or hit, but tapping that back on a slight angle, I think you'll see Canada try to run the double, and there is danger in that. You kind of hate to draw against 2 when you're one up like this. Just killing a rock gets you to an extra end with a hammer, so I don't think Amber will draw against 2. She might.
The final stone for Bing Yu Wang in China here in 10. Already sitting 1 top edge of the 4-foot.
哦，no line，哦，力量不够了，行。分开我猜哦，加油，行。哇，
Bumps it up, rolls it over. How good's that?
That's very, very nice. A little thicker than, or thinner than the way I illustrated, but what it does is if you hit either one of those dead on, you're not shot rock, so it forces Amber to roll.
Now decisions made, and made very quickly. Hit the stone on the tee line and need the inside roll.
Need to roll into the button. Yeah. So I was gonna give you that 10 here.
Okay.
9.5 is their normal weight. They're going to throw 10 hog to hog. That's a little bit lighter. It's what some teams call control. This rock's curled for Amber every single time, so we'll see what happens.
Leading by 1 right now. China sitting 2. They have the win stolen at the moment. Nothing from Kalinchuk. Now Tammy Schneider, they pick it up. You can hear Kim Schneider. Needs to hit and roll inside. Roll inside. What a shot. And there's an opening win. Canada will pick up the win. 8-6 the final over China. And boy, when she's needed that big shot, she's come through.
Every time, Beck. What a great shot. You know, a couple of draws she'd love to have back, but that's a huge win for Canada to beat a strong Chinese team, draw 1.
Hope everybody stayed awake.
An early morning in Canada as Team Canada comes away with a win over China.
2011 Capital One World Women's Curling is brought to you by Ford, official automotive partner of the Canadian Curling Association. 2011 Capital One World Women's Curling is brought to you by M&M Meat Shops. Hundreds of meal ideas, one aisle. By Scotties, proud supporter of women's curling for 30 years. And by Tim Hortons Premium Blend Coffee, always 20 minutes fresh.
So Canada picks up the win. Their next action on TSN will be against Denmark. And we'll have it on TSN 2 on a tape delay at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You, however, can watch the game live on tsn.ca at 2 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday afternoon. Team Canada picks up an opening win, 8-6 over China here at the Capital One World Women's Curling Championship presented by Ford of Canada. Now, on behalf of Russ and our entire crew, thank you for joining us here in Esbjerg and on TSN.